Today we're talking, do you talk politics with your wife? Or better known as the recipe for disaster.
So, Keith, do you be talking the politics with your wife?
I told you I would.
How many drinks have I had?
Well, let's say that you are in the 2-drink minimum at this point, and you're working on to number 3. Something is on the news that you're both watching, and you both are starting to take opinions on it, and then the stage becomes yours.
Yes. There's not a lot of, well, we have had a couple of political conversations. There's more of me just railing at
I would never
things
imagine
that I see on the television.
What the heck is this crap? That sort of thing?
Yes.
And what happens?
Generally what happens is one of two things. Either my wife exits stage left.
Solid. She has a lot of honor when she does that.
Right? Or my wife sits there and says a prayer that I will fall asleep.
Oh, please, Lord, just let him fall asleep. Just this one time.
I imagine that's what she's doing. She's like, oh, please, Lord. Just
or she's sitting there
spontaneous
going,
mutism.
I wonder if I've reviewed his life
He
insurance policy.
becomes mute. He cannot speak.
If he could just be quiet for 5 minutes. I've never actually heard you rant at work about it. I can't say that. I can't finish that statement. But yeah. So, and you guys react. Now, do you get through these conversations fairly well?
Yeah, we've had conversations.
Okay.
Right. We've had the conversations. So the way I generally she says to me, right, I wish I knew more about this. Right? Because I will sit there and I will talk about things that I think are important. Right? And my response when she says, I wish I knew more about this, right, is, right, this just happens to be a thing that I pay attention to. It doesn't mean that you have to, right? Because there are things that you care about that I don't.
Yeah.
Right? And if the shoe was on the other foot, right? And you were talking about something that I didn't know or understand, but I was trying to follow because you were that passionate about it, right? I would try and follow. I would try and understand.
Wow, look at
why
you.
why you're doing that.
You're really growing as a person.
I'm not. I'm still short, but
it's okay.
But the interesting thing is there's a lot of everything is political today.
I haven't noticed.
Everything.
I know. It's everywhere on TV.
Everything is political.
Everything.
These days.
Yes, even our healthcare to everything. No matter what the conversation ends up being.
Just word choice.
Yes.
Right? Framing. Just,
prefixes,
the
suffixes.
really interesting thing is if you turn your television off.
Life gets normal again?
It's possible that you can forget.
Right.
It doesn't go back to normal because nothing is normal right now with the Sharona.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? But everything is political at this point in time. I think it's hard to have a 10-minute conversation with somebody here that doesn't turn into
politics.
some sort of political divide discussion. The interesting thing here is, we don't. There is a wide diversity of political ideas and ideologies in this office. So anytime I hear these political conversations, they're usually from people who are kind of on the same side of things, and then they're talking about differences of degrees of difference, as opposed to there's not a lot of. I don't hold my breath for a lot of epiphany, life-changing, ooh, you have convinced me.
Yes.
Right? Because I think at this point in time, if you follow politics at all, your positions are pretty hardened.
Indeed.
And that's me projecting, because you'd have a hard time convincing me of certain things, and then other time you wouldn't have a hard time convincing me of other things, right? But there are degrees. But yes, I have talked to my wife about politics because it's also important, right?
Yes.
Because I believe all politics is local. I think this fascination with the federal government
Mm-hmm.
is backwards. You should care
Interesting.
about
Your local stuff.
you should know your mayor, right? You should know your city council.
Yes.
So when I was growing
Couldn't tell
up,
you.
my
Mhm.
mom worked at City Hall,
Oh, well, okay.
right? And so I could go to City Hall because my mom worked there,
Mm-hmm.
and you could meet the councilmen, right? You meet the inspectors, right?
Cool.
Permitters, those kind of stuff,
Yeah.
right? So when you meet those people, you realize that they're people, right? When you don't know who they are, then I think it's pretty easy to lump them into a group that you
of-
disfavor because you need somebody to
We just
disfavor.
call them politicians.
Right. So if you know who your mayor is and you know who's on the city council and you don't like something in your neighborhood or in your city, then you go and talk to them,
Interesting.
right? You go and talk to
Mhm.
them and you influence up, right? America is not about top down. We fought a war to remove the idea that government was top
Top down, yes.
right? So if that's the case, then you should care about your HOA meetings. You should care about your city council meetings. You should care what your
Yeah.
mayor is doing,
Mm-hmm.
right? You should care what things, how things are zoned
Mhm.
in your city, what types of businesses are allowed in, right? And if you don't want, like here in Colorado, right, cannabis can be in certain places and it's not in others.
Yep.
The
Local.
state law says it can exist
Mhm.
where local governments will allow. So you can drive from one county to another and the rules are different.
Indeed, they
You
are.
can drive from one city to another and the business licensure requirements are different. So if you're a resident of that place, so this is one of the great things I think about America. You should always be fighting for laws and regulations to be community based. Right? Community based.
More local.
Because just imagine, right? Just imagine that there was you, me, and one person from our audience.
Uh-huh.
Right? And we all lived in a neighborhood. Right? And so then we propose this somebody who governs our neighborhood proposes this idea.
Okay.
Right? Let's say that they say you have to put a 30-foot tree in your front yard. Stupid, right? Non-controversial.
that'd be
Maybe it's
expensive.
controversial. Maybe you hate trees. I don't know.
Who knows?
So
Anyway.
you have to put this tree in your front yard,
Yes.
and it has to be an apple tree, and you have to pick the apples, and you have to deliver the apples, and this is what we're going to do with it, right?
Okay.
If you didn't want to have the tree and the responsibility of the tree in your yard, you can move to the neighborhood next door. You can move. Now, moving is not easy,
No, it's not.
right? But if you don't like a regulation or a rule, right? So our office has a noise ordinance, right? There's a concert venue,
There is.
Right?
Right next to us. Yep.
and because
At
there's
10 p.m.
residential
Mhm.
here, right? They have a noise ordinance. So if you buy a piece of property here, you know that when there's concerts and shows and fairs, right? There's going to be thousands of people that come here.
And lots of noise.
And so if you don't like that, you don't have to live here. But every time you create a law at the federal level, you can't escape it.
Yep.
Right? You can't escape it. So as ridiculous as it sounds, if you don't like something about the county you live in or the city you live in, you can fix that either by trying to change people's minds in that county, right? Or you can move to the adjacent county. And that's not you giving up, because then you can be living by, right, people who care about the things that you care about. I mean, Boulder and Colorado Springs are both in Colorado.
Pretty different county.
They're pretty different.
different.
They're pretty
Pretty
different.
different.
Right? So if you lived in Boulder, but you had a predisposition that you were more likely to align with folks who live around the Air Force Academy in the Springs, right? You could go to the Springs.
You can
But
move.
if Colorado said what the people here in Boulder want, everybody is going to do, then you're no longer able to freely move inside of this inside of the state that we live in and we love, right? So that's the challenge. So when I have conversations with my wife, they're like this.
Mm-hmm.
So we're not talking about the president. I don't care about the president, right? The president's job is to do very, very limited things.
Yes.
The legislature's job is to do very, very limited things, right? The court's job is to do very, very limited things.
Balance of powers.
Right? Okay. So if that's the case, then the things that people are screeching about right now, that, you know, maybe you like the president, maybe you don't. Maybe you like your senator, maybe you don't. Maybe you like the allocation of the balance of power between the Democrats. Maybe you like it, maybe you don't. Right? But in my opinion, you should never be looking to the federal government to solve your problems, because they're only going to create them.
More problems.
Not because they're trying to create a problem, but there's no one-size-fits-all solution for the United States of America.
Interesting.
So if you keep politics local, then you can have social experiments in your local communities. And then when things work, you can expand them. And when they don't, you can shut them down.
Be
right?
an example to others.
Right. So then you can show other communities what's possible, or, man, we thought this was a great idea and it wasn't. As opposed to, this is going to be the greatest thing and it's got to come from the House of Representatives.
And you're forced to do it now.
You know what? You guys should just not pass any laws. And you know what would happen to the rest of us? Nothing.
Right.
Not a thing. Right? Because locally, we would just pass laws.
That would work for us. So
I do actually like talking about politics. I don't like talking about politics in the way that it is presented from some of our major news networks, right?
Yes.
As if life is a series of binary choices. I think that's shallow and insufficient.
Yes.
Right? It's insufficient to the structure of our country.
Interesting.
Right? Everything is gray. Everything is gray. And I personally think you should care, right? You should care about your neighborhood. You should care about your town, right? You should care about who's representing you, who's in charge of your water, who's in charge of your utilities, right? Who's
drainage, everything.
Who's in charge of inspections and codes and zoning? Who's doing that stuff, right? And then meet those people. And when you meet them, they're not the demon anymore.
They're people.
They're people. And they may have different ideas than you do, but it's your responsibility to make sure they hear you. Don't be I mean, if you're calling your senator, they don't care about you. They don't care about you at all. If you're calling I'm telling you, if you're calling one of the 100 United States senators, they don't care about you at all. Because frankly, if you're listening to this podcast, you probably don't have a ton of money. Because I don't have a ton of money. I don't know a lot of people that have a ton of money, right? And your ideas are not getting through to them, right? They're about themselves. Okay, but your local city council people aren't. So go have a conversation with them. Go meet them.
They'll listen.
Go meet the controller of your city.
Yes, do it.
He or she's probably just an accountant, a CPA that took a CPA job for the local government.
Right, and they got elected. Do you know how my wife and I talk about politics?
You don't.
What we do is we bottle up all of our emotions and we push them way, way down until we get into a conversation that explodes all over the place.
So is that 2 drinks in?
You don't even have to get to the first beer. It starts with, did you hear about? And then, boom!
Yeah, but see, okay.
That's how it
But
works
I
in
bet
our
you're
house.
talking about national issues, right? I bet you're talking about national issues that have been framed for you so that you can hate the person next to you without even knowing their name.
I get all of my information from the 24-hour news cycle and only from headlines.
Yeah, well,
Typical
okay.
American.
I mean, okay. If that's okay, that's fine.
That's
then,
fine. Whatever.
Then it must be fun being angry all the time.
No, I just really push those emotions way, way down. And I'm pretty much numb. And thanks to modern medications, I don't really feel a thing anymore.
You know, you remember a couple weeks ago, I gave you the social experiment?
Which one?
Waving.
Yes.
Right? Waving.
Yes.
Okay.
My neighbors are doing it too.
I want you to actually do this.
The waving thing? I have
No,
been.
not the waving thing.
Okay.
I want you to do this.
I've been doing the waving thing and people wave back.
I want you to do this experiment.
All right, let's hear this.
Okay? Yeah. You need 2 mason jars with lids. Okay?
Continue.
Right. Like, go to the store and buy some jelly and make a bunch of PB&Js, and now you have 2 of them.
Okay.
Okay? All
Okay.
right. So you need 2 mason jars.
All right.
Maybe some marmalade.
Ooh.
Okay? Now you have 2 mason jars. Or you could go to the restaurant.
I usually just
Torchies.
Yes, steal them.
No, they.
Oh.
Don't steal them. They will serve you. I guess they probably don't anymore. when they were open,
Yeah.
call them and ask. Call
Yes.
Torchies. They're
And-
really good
and get
tacos.
2 mason jars.
But they have
2
margaritas
jars.
in a mason jar.
Ooh.
Okay, so get a mason jar. Get 2 of them.
Okay.
Take a piece of masking tape
Uh-huh.
and label one of them
Uh-huh.
happy and label one of them sad.
Okay.
Okay? And now you could record yourself doing this, or you could just do it in the privacy of your own home and then
Okay.
take pictures
Okay.
of the results.
Okay.
Set the jars way away from each other, like
Mhm.
in different rooms. Okay? And tell the sunshine one all the nice things about it. Or tell it all the nice things that you think about your wife or your family or your friends or whatever.
Uh-huh.
And then the other jar, tell it all the nasty things, the things that you don't like, the things you hate. Call it names. Just be mean to it.
Uh-huh.
Okay? And within a couple of weeks, one of those mason jars of water will be clear and one of them will look like the Black Death.
I'm going to try it.
Do it.
Let's see what happens.
Do it.
And you
Try
guys
it.
should too. And then
So
send us the results.
What I'm saying is, when you are pushing all of these emotions down
Uh-huh.
because you're not sharing things that bother you or things that you want your wife to know are important to you, and then you release them in an atomic bomb of anger, right?
not
You're
that
actually unhealthy. It's unhealthy. It's not unhealthy to talk about politics. It's unhealthy if you care about talking about politics to not. Because if you care about something, you have to be able to you have to have a way to release it to the people and express it to the people that you care about.
Marriage counseling 101.
All politics is local. Come on.
Do it.
Get involved.
Do it.
I mean, run for mayor of your city.
Yeah.
Run for mayor of your city just for fun.
Right. If somebody's
have it.
unopposed, just go and run and
I'll
see
vote
if you
for
win.
you. I mean, if you live in my city and you run for mayor of the city and you're not the mayor that's currently there, right? I'll vote for you. Just
There you have it, folks.
mark it 8.
If you like what you've seen here, if you like what you've seen here and would like more of it, go ahead and subscribe to our channel, because every time he comes up with marriage counseling advice or how to win your local elections, you can hear a notification go
Over the
bing,
line,
bing,
Smokey.
bing, 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 bing.
This
Also,
isn't Nam. There are rules.
remember to ring that bell. Have a good time. And also head over to ourcommunitynow.com so you can catch all the stories about. We don't cover the politics. We don't at all.
We sort of do at a
Ish.
local level.
Yeah.
We don't do the
Right.
the big news network headline bumper
No.
sticker
If
stuff.
it bleeds, it doesn't lead here, because that's how we do it at ourcommunitynow.com. I'm Josh.
What?
If it bleeds, it doesn't lead here. Remember that saying? If it bleeds, it leads? Never heard that in news?
Yes, I have. And it's wonderful talking with you again on this fine day.
Whatever.